There have been more attacks across Gaza, killing at least 14 people since dawn on Sunday. The victims include 7 Palestinians killed in an attack on a home in Jabalia in northern Gaza. Israeli forces have also targeted more residential buildings in Khan Younis, killing at least 1 person. Meanwhile, there is a severe shortage of basic supplies in the Strip. Israel has allowed more than 100 trucks carrying aid into Gaza since Wednesday, but officials say it's nowhere near what's needed to help the more than 2 million people trapped in the Strip. And there's been no entry of heavy machinery and equipment, which is needed to remove millions of tons of rubble and retrieve bodies. Let's bring in our correspondent, Hani Mahmoud. He's joining us live from Gaza City. So, as we mentioned, Hani, absolutely no respite from the deadly attacks. It's been another bloody morning, another bloody Sunday morning in Gaza.
Good morning, Elizabeth. And yes, it has been quite difficult night and early hours of this morning as well. With as of just the past minutes, we could clearly hear the sounds of explosions coming from the eastern part of the Strip. This is part of an Israeli continuation on the ground, blowing up residential buildings, what remain of the eastern part of the Gaza city, the Zaytun and Shujaiya neighborhood, vast neighborhoods, once busy and full of residents, now just fields of rubble everywhere that we go. And also the overnight attacks that has already caused further civilian casualties, including attacks on tents in a Nusayrat refugee camp and a residential home in Khan Younis, another residential home in Jabalia town, where a journalist and 2 other family members were killed in the attack as a result of the ongoing Israeli airstrikes across the Strip. We're looking on daily basis now, on average, 80 to 120 Palestinians killed for the past 15 days. We at some point we could not keep up with the pace of the rising numbers of casualties as a result of these deadly attacks. All of this, of course, is happening amid the ongoing blockade on the crossings, and whatever was allowed in the past few days, just a trickle amount that is not enough to respond to the greater demands, the greater needs created by months of devastation and bombardment across the Strip. We're talking about close to 100, not more than this, of trucks filled with the flour and other basic necessity that is not responding to the needs and the deepening crisis created by 20 months of devastation. And it's not just food. The Israeli military is also preventing the entry of much needed equipment and heavy machinery just to remove rubble, to help civil defense crew members on the ground remove rubble and save lives as much as they can. This has been quite difficult. And if anyone ever wonders how civil defense services operate in a war zone, we're going to talk to the director of the Civil Defense Department here, director of supplies and equipment in the Gaza Strip, just to give us an idea for the past 593 days how civil defense services across the Gaza Strip operated amid acute shortage of machinery and heavy equipment. We are going to talk to Dr. Mohammed Limghayr, the director of supplies and equipment. Dr. Mohammed, يعطيك ألف عافية.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your time. Let me begin asking you, 590 days of killing, devastation and blockade. You are on the field on daily basis together with your fellow crew members, responding to stress calls following Israeli airstrikes. How can you describe the past 590 days? We have been suffering greatly. We cannot respond swiftly to the stress calls, even if we deploy after receiving an emergency call. We are being targeted by the Israeli occupation forces. This adds pressure to our crews. The least we have been trying to do is to lend a helping hand to those in stress, like what happened in the Indonesian hospital, added to the massive physical efforts. In addition to that, we have fulfilled more than 170,000 stress calls, interception, swift response, and also transportation of dead and injured. Not only physical fatigue, but also we are suffering mental and psychological burdens. More than 25% of our crew members were killed. Can you tell us more about the daily race as you are racing against time? Over the past few months, we see the civil defense teams racing against the clock to not only recover the dead, but also try to salvage and rescue the surviving buried under the debris. Once we receive a stress call, we deploy our teams across 15 stations. We head straight to the site. The response time is between 5 to 7, despite the harsh circumstances, closed roads and lack of vehicles. Immediately, we start looking for survivors under the debris. We are using simple tools like shovels and hammers, and in addition to our bare hands, we do not have any heavy machinery or equipment. On some occasions, we managed to rescue survivors alive, despite the fact that these targeted areas are not red zones. They are purely residential areas like Sheikh Khalil and other residential areas. We are denied the entry of heavy equipment and machinery that would help us to fulfill our missions. That's why we are using our bare hands and simple tools. This adds to the physical burden and mental burdens we are under. In addition to that, we take too much time. That's why the chances of recovering survivors are diminishing. You mentioned a very important point that the Israeli occupation forces are not only denying food and medical supplies, but also the heavy machinery and equipment needed by you, which are badly required to search for and help survivors. The Israeli occupation forces have adopting these practices in order to multiply the number of victims so that those injured can lose their lives. We have documented 9,700 survivors who breathed their last simply because we were not able to swiftly lend them a helping hand and recover them from under the debris. Another practice adopted by the Israeli occupation forces is targeting the victims through their mobile numbers. You are suffering a sense of loss, despair, especially that many of your fellow members were killed in action on the field. How can this add to you and your surviving fellow members? We are working in constant fear. On many occasions, we fear to approach, to put out fires, or even lend a helping hand to survivors calling from under the debris. We are constantly targeted by the Israeli occupation forces. However, this does not deter us. We will continue to support our fellow civilians, and we'll continue to fulfill our human noble mission, no matter what it takes. A final question. In the absence of fuel necessary to the machinery and civil defense vehicles, how do you cope with this problem? We are regulating our missions. We are cutting down on the deployment. The UN provided us with a few liters of fuel in the past few days. However, all across Gaza Strip, we are suffering sharp shortage of fuel. We are also trying to resort to the locally manufactured fuel in order to be able to run our vehicles. Whenever we are left in the corner, we are also seeking help from civilians and other people with their private vehicles. We will continue to perform, we will continue to fulfill our mission no matter what it takes. Thank you.
So as we heard from the Director of Supplies and Equipment at the Civil Defense Department in Gaza City, unusually difficult situations. Not only are they forced to ration supplies, but also they are forced to deal whatever little available in terms of equipment, in terms of fuel and vehicles across the strip, and to respond as fast as they could to save lives. However, that hasn't been easy for the past 593 days of ongoing genocide. Aid is not just food and water and medicine, but also machinery and equipment are much needed now to help remove rubble from the street, to help civil defense crew members on the ground to save lives.
Hani, thank you very much for giving us that really in-depth picture of what emergency crews in Gaza are having to deal with. Hani Mahmoud, live in Gaza City.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.